always felt like we were sharing him emotionally and physically. But we did our best, and Jason always tried his best when he was home to be there and be present, So yes, a lot of job first.
I feel like you're speaking to me because this is something I'm trying not to get upset about.
Well, we are back with Street Tales, another episode with someone that I am so excited about because we've had the opportunity to interview her other half. I always think it's important that we sometimes only get half the story. And so I'm really excited because she is one of the few wives that we've got to come on this show and share their story. So we have Veronica Palamara with us today. Thank you for coming.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Very good. We had your husband, Jason, so that's how we got an opportunity to meet her. And we were very fortunate to actually be able to record with them out when we were in California. So meet with them and have an opportunity not just to record, but to break bread and get to know who they were as people. And I was just really impressed with her. And I asked her right away if she would be willing to come on the show and talk to us. And I think at first she was a little bit like, and I think, and this is my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Veronica, a lot of times when we talk to wives of law enforcement officers and things like that, they will say, well, I just don't know if I have anything that's to share. And I'm always so floored by that because you guys have a parallel story that is going on all the while that your husband, your spouse is doing the job that they do. And not only are you running a parallel story, you're running the family a lot of times. You're running making sure the kids are taken care of, supporting that individual. And the story that you guys have is usually so amazing and powerful. So it was so funny when you kind of shrunk back. I'm like, no, I think your story is so interesting.
You're
sure.
right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, for sure. No, well, and that's just one, meeting you, we met in LA. Also, I just got to point out, we're recording in 3 different time zones at the moment, which is, we'll see how this goes. I'm very excited about that as well. We're testing the limits. It's always like, well, not always, but a lot of times when the spouse, really doesn't matter, but in this case, Jason's like, hey, he's done all these things, homicide detective, all the stuff that he did, NYPD, all these big stories. It's like, I'm just kind of along for the ride. And it's like, one, not at all, but two, you have your own identity, so to speak, because I think that's another thing that gets lost sometimes in the shuffle, especially when you're dealing with this profession. It happens in the military as well. Talking with Adam, he was combat, led soldiers and all that stuff like that. His wife is super interesting as well, but she's like, yeah, I didn't do any of that stuff. I was just home, doing my thing, taking care of the house and stuff. It's like, no, like, you watched your significant other go through all these changes. And then when they came home, you're kind of there. You're the one that's there picking up the pieces, so to speak, when they're broken or whatever else is going on. And sometimes even pointing out, hey, something's wrong with you. It's fucked up. I don't like it. Something's changed. We got to figure this out. But that's your spouse. That's the one who points that out. So anyway, it doesn't always have to be bad. I'm not saying that, but it's just the other side, the other perspective is what is why we're drawn to this. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for your words. I think we all just kind of get lost, not just as wives, but you're a mom, you're a wife, you're busy in that. So you kind of have to find yourself again once your husband makes his way back home, or your spouse, and then your children get older. And so yes, you can get a little lost in there. And it's like, well, what do I have to share with anybody else? Everyone else is going through their own stuff. So how's mine any different or any more than somebody else's? So, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And we'll get into it, but Jason touched on it when we recorded with him, but the fact that once he retired and started this new chapter of his career, he's like, I spent the last 20, 25 years doing my own thing without my spouse. Now going forward, I'm not doing anything. So the fact that you guys are building a business together, the Agala stuff together, like all that, we'll get into it later, but in that you equally are excited about it. Like, you're in there in the midst with it. So I love you guys as a couple, but two, you each have your own individual stories, and I'm very excited to get into it.
Because, like I said, I want to know your story. I got to know a piece of it when we met in LA, but tell me about, like, where did you grow up? How did Veronica start?
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. I was raised by my mom. I have an older brother, 7 years older than me. I have 2 half sisters and a half brother, but it was primarily my mom and I together. She worked 2, 3 jobs at times. But I mean, all my cousins, great childhood. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's good.
No, I get that. And I always think it's important because a lot of times the people will say little things like that, like, oh, this is the way I grow up. And it doesn't seem to be a significant nugget until you realize, like, later on in life, was a big contributing factor of their personality or how they chose to do their family or how they reared their children. So that's why I think it's important for us to always kind of get a little bit of the background because it a lot of times becomes your why.
Yeah. And it does make a huge difference. I think back now to how I was raised. And I think, I didn't have my dad around. I know the importance of having a dad around. Everything from my childhood up until I met Jason, you see how it works in your life and how now you want to raise your family, how you want to be with your spouse, how you don't want to be with yourself, and the same aspect with the children, what you do and you don't want to do.
So Southern California, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is that where post high school, did you go to college there? What did your life look like once you are now teenager going into young adult and you can make your own decisions?
So after high school, I graduated in high school, like just barely. By the grace of God, I graduated high school. Those were rough
That's all right.
years.
He
Sorry,
covers us with
Mom.
grace everywhere.
Yeah. But so I graduated in June, and then in November, I was in boot camp in the Navy. So I left pretty quickly after graduating. I was in Chicago, then Florida, and then I went to Virginia, and that's where I met Jason. So there wasn't a lot of after high school life. It was, and the Navy was my first job. I never had a job prior to that. And, my mom always did everything for me. So it was
Oh,
quite a shock to go from just being taken care of by my mom in every aspect to now I'm on my own.
Yeah.
Don't know how to my finances. I don't know. I think one time I even overdrew on my money because I'm like, I didn't know. So it was the people skills I was so lacking on. I was
Well,
on my own. It was a lot that, my first job was my first job. So
that's a pretty
yeah,
big first job.
kind of. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah.
So how did you land in the Navy? Was this something you always wanted to do? Or was this something that
or did
you're
a
getting there
recruiter
and you're
get
like, all
you?
right, I got to make a decision?
Yeah.
Or did a recruiter get you?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I said, my high school years were a little like, not so great. Got to things I wasn't supposed to be doing, like didn't have a sense of direction. So afterwards, I knew I wanted to do something bigger than me. And the Navy's what came to mind, right? You serve in your country. I don't have, like my grandfather served, but there was
Okay.
nobody really in my life who I was like, oh, I want to emulate that. I want to do what they're doing. I think that's great. Looking at it now, I just feel like God was giving me that path so I can meet Jason. If I didn't go, I really don't have a big reason. I didn't know what else to do. I wanted to do something greater. And my only thought is God put me there to be able to meet Jason and now have the life that I have. So I don't have a great story as to why I joined.
Yes, you. And I think that
That's
is
Sounds
a
good
big
enough.
reason to say that you think that back then you realized God was orchestrating things in your life. Number one, that is. But when you say, like, I didn't have direction, so I decided that I needed to go in a direction that was going to kind of lead me down a path and have this be my first job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how long did you spend in the Navy?
That was short-lived. I did a
Okay.
year. I met Jason shortly after going to Virginia.
Okay.
And it seemed like very quickly we were comfortable with each other. Within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I feel like we were already grocery shopping together. Like things progressed very quickly. Yeah. So it was a year. I got out, he got out, and I got out shortly afterwards. I was pregnant. We had our daughter. And so life quickly,
Quickly
yeah.
changed. You
Yes.
went from being in the Navy to being mom and wife, essentially, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
So I didn't do very long.
and I want to just kind of back up because I know Tyler always likes to know this. The boot camp, this being your first job, was it what you were expecting? Was it a culture shock? Was it the boot camp idea that we all see where you got a drilling sergeant like right here to your
It's
face?
their face. Yeah. But I think it wasn't the worst thing because I didn't have any expectations.
Mm.
I went in there not knowing. I feel like when I spoke to my recruiter, I didn't know about all the opportunities in there with jobs. I kind of like took the test and went in. Like I didn't have a lot of direction with that or help. And no fault to my mom. I just think she
Of
didn't
course.
know.
Mhm.
So it was just that. It was met the recruiter. I don't remember how I met him or how that came to be. Took the test and went in. There was nothing else to help me navigate through that part.
the boot camp portion, like the culture, and now you're getting screamed at. You got to wear a tight bun.
I think it's just
Yeah.
something that you have to do. Like you just suck it up and you do it. That's part of what it's going to be, and you just do it. As far as the bun, there was no bun. My recruiter actually told me I can do that, and I had very long hair, and they cut it like up to here.
Oh no!
And I don't have nice hair unless I blow dry it or straighten it, and it was a mess, and it was horrible. I gained weight from the food. My hair was short. Probably looked like a boy.
Jason
that
still
part
loved
was
you.
rough for me. Apparently it was enough for him because
Jason's like, that's the one.
was not very pretty. I don't think they checked his eyes when he was there because I think it was rough.
That's so good.
For the record, Veronica, I can't imagine you not being pretty, so that's probably not true. But I get what you're saying.
Kind of you, but it was a rough moment.
I laugh because my mom had the same issues. She went to the Marine Corps. Similar, kind of like didn't know what to do. Just was like, I was like, what? I've tried asking her many times, like, what made you pick the Marines of all the fields that you could have gone? She's like, I don't know. That's what I did. It's like, okay, well, she got so tired of doing the bun thing. She just shaved her head. So like when she was pregnant with me, I'm trying to find a photo of it, but I can't. I know one exists. I've seen it. She had the shaved head and she had like abs over her. Sorry, not trying to be gross, over her pregnant belly. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Mom. She's like, yeah, that's just what you did.
That's awesome. At least she had abs. I never had abs. So good job, Mom.
Marines run a lot. Let's just phrase it that way. They run a lot.
Insane. Absolutely insane. So you do your year in the Navy and you meet Jason at some point. So you said you went to Florida, you went to boot camp, then you went to Florida, and then you ended up being stationed in Virginia, which is where you guys met. And he was also in the Navy, correct?
Yes, we were on the Roosevelt together.
So pregnancy, life, all these things quickly change. How was it? He wasn't a cop when you guys first got married, correct?
He was not, no.
Okay. So during that time frame, what was life like with you guys in the very beginning without knowing where this was going to lead in the law enforcement world?
Well, I knew that he wanted to be a cop, so that was always something I knew. But when we were in New York together, that was our life from the beginning. He started the academy shortly after. We had a list. He was there. I know you guys know during 9/11.
Yes,
our life with him being an officer started from the beginning. There was no like in between where we had like certain amount of time where he's thinking about what he's going to do. It was just right off the bat he was a cop. So that's all I've ever known being with Jason is that life with him.
So it wasn't anything from the very beginning you kind of knew, and this was just the way you guys evolved essentially in your relationship.
Yes. And we were also very young. I met Jason when I was 18. So we just knew no other way. We just grew together along with his job and along with our daughter. And then, we had 2 other children. Again, that is all we ever knew. It wasn't like we had a couple years, just him and I to grow and figure stuff out. That was what it was.
With that, obviously, in law enforcement, there's always, you have that initial, you come in and you're on the street or you're doing whatever that assignment is. And then typically, you will have throughout your career path multiple different changes. You're in this assignment or that assignment. In your experience going through it, you guys were building a marriage. He was building a career, and you guys are building a family. What did that look like / feel like for you during that?
Well, I was always very proud of him for what he was doing. I think it takes an honorable person to be in that field. I always wanted to be a mom. I loved being a wife. So again, that was just what it was. I was happy being a mom. I knew he was out there doing his job. I knew he was safely doing his job. I knew if he was going into a building, he knew 3 ways to get out. So I didn't really feel fear for his safety. I don't know.
Were there some of the things like when we have talked to offline to a lot of wives, there are things that are missed. They are trying to stoke the fires at home while they're doing that. Did you ever feel that as you guys grew your family and grew your marriage and his career path continued to grow?
That I had to stoke the fire? What
that
do
you
mean?
had to kind of like keep the kids, keep doing things that maybe he's missing or anything like that? Were there ever times where you felt that weight, like sometimes military wives will do because the husbands get deployed? Very similarly in law enforcement, I know for me, for instance, my husband was in homicide. He would leave, and if they were working a homicide case, I may not see him for 3 or 4 days. So it was on me to make sure that I, got our son somewhere. Or at that time, I was staying at home, being a stay-at-home mom. So kind of doing those things. How was that for you? Did you have to answer questions from your kids of like, where's dad? What's going on? And how did you kind of keep them not worried?
Well, the kids would always ask about dad, where he was, but they knew dad was out there protecting people, putting the bad guys away. That was our common answer for them. And as far as doing stuff around the house,
I think it's important that like what you are saying when you're like, I just did it. I don't know that I thought about anything and I didn't have any kind of internal dialogue. I think that's a great point to make, Veronica, because I feel like people sometimes think there should be internal dialogue. There should be all these things going on. So I think it's awesome to hear you say, yeah, I just did it. These were times where we pivoted as a family. This was something we knew that was happening. We were going to just continue to grow. And people don't realize that sometimes just that simple growth is okay. You don't have to have a bunch of angst and turmoil and things like that going through those situations. Like I told you, my husband would leave and he would go. Never really had a lot of angst, but I thought maybe it's because I'm a cop also. So I think it's important that people, because they will sometimes go, oh, well, she's like that because she's not a cop. Well, you're not a cop. And I want people to hear themselves in the story. So thank you for sharing that.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
And as a husband, I can tell you, especially me, one, I overthink a lot. Two, when I'm in we're doing this, move in, this is the new path this is what I think is best for our family mode. I can't tell you how much it deflates me if my significant other starts questioning me and bringing me all the way down. Like you just completely pulled the rug out. I was pumped. We're doing this. Again, there's space for that. And I understand that. But for you to just be like, yeah, this is what we're doing. I always knew it. I'm not going to, I love him. This is what we're doing. We start a family. I want to be not just a wife. I want to be his wife. And you encourage and like that's huge. It's not a small thing because there's a lot of, I'll speak for men on this one. There's not a lot of men who get that. It takes time and when you can get that, it's very lucky. Like that's like to be that man's peace when he comes home is huge. It's like just such a big thing. Like I think it's overlooked a lot.
I think you get that when you earn it, right? I always trusted Jason. I trusted he was going out there. He was working hard to provide for his family. He was working hard. So I was able to be home with the children and take care of the children and, thank God not to have to put them in daycare. And I know a lot of people have to. And from the beginning, we had that foundation. We had a very similar foundation in that, like he knew his mom was home with him growing up and he knew that's what he wanted. And my mom wasn't home, she had to work, but I knew I wanted the opposite. And, thank God I was able to with Jason. But you do have to earn that. And I trusted his choices and I trusted his decisions, but that was something he did show me throughout the years, and which made it easier for me to be able to follow him on that path.
No, for sure. And let me say this. I also wanted the same thing. We got to a point where we tried and listen, shout out to people who have to deal with the daycare situation. One, it's expensive as all hell. Two, you're trusting somebody else to raise your kids when they're like most vulnerable, which tore me up. Three, Mo, I don't know if you ever had to deal with this. When your kids go to daycare and you come home, you're all going to get deathly ill many times throughout the year. And it was a fucking nightmare. It was like, all right, it's not worth it anymore.
But yeah, when they started school, they would come home all the time. There's old who's sneezing, who's coughing. I'm like, stay away from that kid. So yeah, it was always something.
Sure. Articulate this before we start getting too far down the path. The fact that you're like born and raised Southern California, join the Navy just because like this is what I'm doing. Which again, serving in the military, that's a whole bunch. You're learning a whole new culture, so to speak. You meet Jason, you get pregnant. He's going to be a cop in New York City, and you're just like, yeah, I'm here for it. And yeah, I didn't struggle with it because you knew this was the path you wanted to go on, and you supported not only your husband but your growing family. That's huge, and it's not something that has to always have this massive internal dialogue. And, you can almost get paralysis with analysis type thing where you just don't do anything because you're overthinking. Hey, that's my advice for me too.
I like that though. Paralysis. That's a good one.
I stole that from BJ.
No, it's good. I'm gonna use it. I think we just look around and it's like, well, I should have a reason. I should have, like, Jason's a very in-depth thinker. He has a reason for doing things. And sometimes he'll be like, well, why'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. But in my head, I don't need to do A and B to get to C. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to go to C, and I don't really know why. And I always thought like, okay, that's like a me thing. That's a my issue. I should know why I'm doing A, B, and C. I should know like the thought process behind that. So for me, it was never like, oh yeah, well, you're just doing it because you have to do it. Suck it up and get it done. For
Yeah.
me, I guess maybe hearing from other people or even from my husband, he has again A, B, and C, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't think that way. So I guess that's why I feel there always has to be some sort of whole thing behind why you're doing something. And I know for me, it was just, again, I loved it. I wanted to be a mom. I loved Jason, and that's the path we were on.
So
I
you're a
think,
lot like me. I just want to say, because you're a lot like me on that. You're moving in what you're already comfortable in. You know, you want to be
yes,
a wife. You know, you want to be a mom. You're there to support your husband. So A and B don't really matter because you're already living in A and B. You're doing the things that you want to do, right? And you also, the decisions that are being made is from all the experiences and I mean, the countless conversations, those moments, you know, where you're alone with your husband or with your kids. So it's like the totality of all that. So when something pops up, you're taking all of that knowledge that's already organized in your mind. You're like, boom, see, because you already know all the backstory. You don't have to walk through it. And that's huge. Sorry, Mo, I cut you off.
no, I'm going to actually, you touched on a lot of it, but I think it goes to say what she said earlier. I trusted Jason.
Yeah.
And if you trust somebody, you don't need to know the why behind it. You can just move with that person. And that leads us, and we'll talk about this, but when you have faith, you can move without knowing the why. Faith is just that. You're going to make that step without being able to see the ground below you because you know it's going to be there. So I think that lends to, I don't have to know the why. I can just jump to the C because I trust whatever the situation was. And in that case, in hearing you now walk me through that, you trusted the situation you were in with the person you were with. So awesome.
Which is huge. One question before we go down. Did Jason
Yes.
actually tell you and talk to you about what he was doing? Because I've now heard from several cops' husbands that were like, no, they never knew what I was doing. They just knew I was going to work and coming back. I didn't really get into the details. Was that similar in your world or?
He didn't get into a lot of details, but I'm the weirdo. Like, what did you do at work? Did you find anything? Tell me about this. Tell me about that.
That's not weird at all. I figured that's what
That's not
should be.
weird.
Yeah, he would tell me, some things, but I think there was so much that he just kept to himself because he was trying to protect me and protect my heart. And I appreciate that, but I wish that he would have shared more, not just because I want to know all the details, but, for him, I think it's important to have an outlet to be able to share those things. And I understand why he didn't want to. And maybe he only feels like he could talk to another cop about it. But, I'm his wife. I want him to share the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. So he did not tell me everything. And I feel like I learned that. So every day I'm like, wait a minute, that happened?
Wait a minute.
But I wish he had. I wish he had. I think it would have been helpful for the both of us.
Got it. Yeah.
I struggle with that too, because I would tell stories and then I'd see the shock of horror and like disgust on my kids or at the time my wife's face. And I was like, all right, maybe that was an overshare. I shouldn't have shared that one.
Too much? Okay, very well. That was too much.
I know around any other guys or friends, Jason wouldn't share stories. I know he knew that they would not understand him. They were probably not an appropriate topic of conversation.
Sometimes they're not. That's why when people are like, tell me a cop story, and I'm like, that's a ride or yeah, do you really?
You don't want to hear.
What do you want to hear about? Go Mo, sorry.
Yes. One of the things that when we were conversating and I thought I just wanted to dive into it. And again, you may not have a why, it just might be. You said one of the most important things you did in your life was being a mother and being a wife. Why was that? Because some people, I think they miss that being an important role. So I wanted you to just tell us and articulate, why was that so important to you?
I always knew since I was like young that I wanted to be a wife and I wanted the white picket fence. I always knew that was in me. And while going through it, there were times where I was like, well, should I have a job? Should I have a career? You hear about the girl boss stuff and you're like, well, should I be doing something else? And it really took a lot of, I guess, prayer for me to really understand that is my God-given gift. My gift was to be the best mom to my children that I could be and help to nurture them and educate them and give them good, healthy experiences. And then also in that aspect of being a wife again, I'm like, well, maybe I should be contributing. Maybe I should be helping, maybe to help him be less stressful. But I think just to be Jason's helper in life and give him that home, that peace when he does get home is a huge thing. And I think it's overlooked a lot in society. I just think that's why I am here on earth. And that is my job. And that's just what I hold very close to my heart. Even to this day, my kids are a little older, but I love being home for them. I love being here for Jason. I do work part-time, but this is my main job at home. And there's so many times I come home and I feel like I don't cook dinner a lot because it's just Jason and I. And I'm like, well, like, what do you want to do? And he's like, oh, I'll just eat whatever. So certain things I'm not doing as much. I know that is why I'm here. And I try to honor it.
It's awesome. That is so awesome. I think that people miss out that is such a pivotal role to walk with your partner. And sometimes when where you're truly running parallel lives, you have a career, he has a career, you're both kind of doing your own thing. And a lot of times people miss out. They're not being fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And it's because they're missing out. What is that God-given gift, like you said, that he gave you? Because he gives us all talents. And what did he give you? And are you overlooking it because you're trying to keep up with, maybe I should have a career, those kind of things. And I just thank you for sharing that, because for me, I had a career as a deputy, but when I got pregnant with my son and I got married, Tyler always laughs. He's like, I don't get it. Now we got PTO mom mode and stuff. Because
it's a wild change, but yeah.
It is a wild change, but I am as happy in this role in my life as doing the thing. I'm happier because I was doing it for other people. I was doing it for other people. And now I'm giving for my son and for my husband. And it's just amazing to hear that from you.
It's the best thing to see your kids grow and thrive. I mean, for me, that's so fulfilling to watch them turn into the people that they're becoming.
Yeah, listen, no knock on my parents because it is what it is, but both Marines, and then they got divorced when I was very young. So it is what it is. But I was a hamburger helper kid, that kind of a thing. Both parents worked, it bounced around, all those things like that. But with that being said, all this stuff's coming out now. Like we talked with Dr. Raul Mira, where he's talking about the time, those pivotal years, the first 12 years where interacting with your parents, they're the ones that teach you empathy. They're the ones that teach you discipline. They're the ones that teach you respect. Like they're the ones. So you are the one, you and Jason. That, and then being able, like what you were talking about, you were cooking all the meals, that nutrition factor and how that also affects the growth and development of the mind. All these things are coming out now, 2025. In the 80s, when I was growing up, it was like, McDonald's and Hamburger Helper.
Oh, yeah.
Like nutrition wasn't really a thing. It was whatever's fast and easy. So even though this is all knowledge that's coming out now, you kind of had that innate thing that like, this is important. And I just want to reiterate, you're raising the next generation of humans, right? Human beings. And that's so important. On top of that, you have the control to do it as opposed to letting somebody else do it, which is always scary. Has always scared the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Someone else is raising my kids? Hell no.
Yeah. We were very lucky. We had my in-laws close by. So if we, date night or I need help with the kids for whatever reason, or Jason wasn't able to take, we had 3 kids, and when they're all playing sports, someone's going to be late, someone's going to be early, someone's going to be on time. So,
yeah,
my in-laws helped, and thank God we had them. We were very fortunate. We never had to have them in the hands of somebody we didn't know or we had to hire.
Yeah.
That was a blessing. That was a blessing.
Did you ever feel, because I think Jason kind of alluded to it, but I don't think I asked him specifically. Did you ever feel, or was there a moment when you felt the job was first and you and the kids were second for him?
So much of our lives. Yeah. No, there was so many times, Jason, he would get home around 10 or 11 normally. And by that time, the kids are in bed, dinner's cleaned up. And finally, I would get a second and I'm on the couch. And then I would see the lights come through the curtain. And part of me was like, oh, good, he's home. But the other part is like, because now I would get up.
That's honest, and I love it.
Yes.
I would follow him around and how was your day? And I'm tired. I don't feel like talking. And are you hungry? You want me to warm up your meal? And now there's like another hour tacked onto my night and I'm tired. But, there were days he would come home early, and if Dad's in a good mood, you don't want to ruin that mood, right? Don't ruin it. You don't want to tell him if something bad happened. You want the kids to be on their best behavior. Don't ruin the good mood. And then if Dad's in a bad mood, you still don't want to tell him something that happened. He was just emotionally drained. So you just try to keep this steady balance at home where it's like good mood or bad mood. Like, let's just keep it like as good as it can be. Or, there were times he would come home and he's had so much at work dealing with people and talking, whatever it is. And maybe I said something that came across kind of rude or something. It was just, he had no time for that. It was done. And then, that made me feel a certain way. I feel like I'm a pretty sane and level person, but, that was hurtful. So it did a big part. Always felt like we were sharing him emotionally and physically, but we did our best. And Jason always tried his best when he was home to be there and be present, So yes, a lot of job first.
I feel like you're speaking to me because this is something I'm trying not to get upset about. That's how it was in my house too. And I didn't know that till my kids are older now, and they would be like, yeah, we just never wanted to upset you. So there's a lot of things we never shared with you. And I'm like, I never thought in my head that I gave up that energy, but you are 100% correct. I lived through that, and I'm now, working through that myself. So it's, that's a rough one. That's a rough one to swallow.
It is a
But
tough one. But I know it's tough for Jason to have to come to that realization that the kids weren't able to really talk to him, to feel that way. And him, after retirement, really worked on that and tried to just build a relationship with the kids, because there were many points in the kid's life where it was super rocky and there was no conversation, and just the house was just like a dark cloud was over it. So it takes a lot of work, but it gets there. He has a great relationship now with the kids, and they talk now, and him and Alex, that Alex is, now serving our country and is MP, and they have that in common. So all the bad that Jason went through, I think we go through everything for a reason. Now he can share that with Alex, so he doesn't go through certain things, or he can help him navigate through other things. But that all can definitely get worked through. It was tough for Jason, but he's on a great path with the kids now.
I think that's, you hit it the one point when you said, but Jason always was trying his best. And I think that's a very common thing. Me and Tyler have talked about this, and other friends of mine that are in the law enforcement career field. Well, I was trying to do my best, and I'm doing this. So I think that that's always the drive behind it, is they are doing their best. They are trying to take care of their families. They are trying to do what they think is right. And they think they somehow, just because they are absorbing so much out there in the world, there's the most awful things that are seen in this career, and they don't know how to bleed it off and come home, and they think, even when they have these times where the family's kind of tiptoeing around them and those kind of things, they think that it's still, well, I'm trying to do what I can do to take care of my family. And it's a double-edged sword, because they really are trying. I think it's absolutely genuine. It's just a matter of they are lost in a space themselves that just feels so foreign a lot of times.
Yeah. I think that's where community and fellowship and for us, our faith wasn't, not that it wasn't there. Our kids went through all their sacraments, they grew up Catholic. We just kind of went through the steps. We went through the motions of it. Lost my train of thought again.
We're saying that like he was, trying to make sure that you're doing the right things, and making sure that, now in embedding your faith into your relationship and how you're interacting with your kids, how it's changing a bit now.
Yeah. That one's
I think it's a good tie-in. No, I think it's a good tie-in for your faith journey and how that helps you through the darker times of your marriage, family raising. But now again, I know you guys now, so I don't know I don't know what you guys were like before. I just know the now, and it's super motivating and super positive. So there was something that brought that about.
I want to back her up a little bit more. Like, did you have a faith journey that started, a lot of people are like, oh, I went to church when I was in middle school or high school, or I got saved, or what did your faith journey look like? Did you have one prior to Jason, or was this a journey that you guys took together?
I always believed in God. I grew up Catholic. We never really went to church. Never I was baptized. That was it.
Okay.
So we weren't really involved with the church. We knew for our kids, Jason, went to a Catholic school throughout his whole school years. We always knew we believed in God and wanted that in the kids' life. So we said prayers, baptized, communion, confirmation. They went to religious education. But we didn't walk in our faith. We didn't have a relationship. I would always say Jason and I had a good foundation, a strong foundation. And it was a similar foundation. It wasn't good, because if it was good, it would have been based off our faith in Jesus Christ. And I think our life would have been, I don't want to say easier, right? You don't get that it's going to be easier just because you believe, but I think it would have been super helpful in our lives if we have more so lived by that book, and we didn't. So, we said our prayers with the kids, and we took them to church to check off the list, because you had to go like 10 to 15 times, right? Go to the stations and do all of that. Right. But it was never, we never had a relationship with him, and not until we moved here. to where we are, and our neighbors, we had them over. It happened to be on Good Friday. We had them over for some wine, and
Yeah.
they were like, "Hey, you guys want to come to church with us on Sunday for Easter?" And it's a Christian church, and we were like, "Yeah, okay, we haven't really found a church yet, so yeah, we'll go." And that was 3 years ago. We just never stopped going. It has transformed our lives. I
Wow.
opened the Bible for like the first time ever a few years ago. Our kids are super involved. It looks so different for us now than what it was before. And I wrote it down, one small thing that I think would have been helpful from back in the beginning is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4, where it talks about love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love is
Mm-hmm.
patient, love is kind. And I know we said that in our vows, but I know we did not follow it,
Yeah.
right? We were not
Got it.
kind in our words or in our actions. We were rude to each other. We definitely kept a record of who's being wrong, you know? So
Uh-huh.
it's like when you just open that book and you realize like it says right there how to do it, like how to
Yeah.
live life. It just would have been so much better. So our
Yeah.
faith really grew within the last couple years. Jason and I go to study together, and that's just been super helpful, just like holding you accountable, because it's not just us going to church on Sunday. We do read the Bible daily, but now you have these other questions. You're not reading it just to read it, be like, oh, I want to
Yeah.
answer the question, or, you're being held accountable. And I love using that word for this study that we're involved in now. And, our kids go to a study, and it's really been life-changing for us.
Yeah.
Veronica,
So,
this is so good. You're so honest. I love it so much because a lot of people won't say that
they
stuff. And it's like, no,
no.
that's fucking real. That is
Yeah.
how it is. I
Well,
love it. So,
It's
it's not me though. I read the Bible, and it talks about being bold and just sharing. And it's like,
yeah.
how can I stay quiet about you can't stay
yeah.
quiet about that. It's something that I feel, and I don't say it just to say it, like really mean it. And I've seen what it's done in our lives, and I can't, or I'm not going to be scared to share that.
It's huge though to hear like, yeah, because some people like it's so honest, like you said, to say we went through the motions. And so many people, when you talk about faith, especially, they just go through the motions and they don't realize that if you go through the motions with something as important as your faith, you're going through the motions with other things in your life, your marriage, how you're rearing your children, things like that. You're going through the motions and checking boxes off instead of really being critical and intentional about it. And the Bible lays it all out to us. It tells
Yeah.
us how to love. It tells us, how to lead our lives, the things that we should do, the things we shouldn't do. And it's right there. But a lot of times people are they don't, I think there's twofold. I think sometimes people don't want to read it because they don't want to hear the things that they get convicted on, to say
Mhm.
like, you should not be doing that. Well, if I don't read it, I don't know, you
It,
know? And the
ignorance
parts,
is bliss, right?
it's bliss. I can be ignorant about the fact of I didn't know. So it's just so, when you say that, I felt it from you because it is something that people aren't honest with themselves about. So thank you for being honest about it and sharing
Yes.
it that way. So it was 4 years ago, you said that your neighbors invited you to church?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah,
And it
3 years.
was, where was it? You guys were Catholic up until that point, right?
Yeah, yeah. I went to a Christian church once when I was younger. My grandmother used to babysit these two kids, and the mom one time, they were in our lives for a long time. So my cousin and I went to go sleep over at her house, and she took us to a Christian church. And I don't think she asked to take us. And it was just
Whoops.
wild because we're young, we're like 10, and everyone is just like praising the Lord. And we were like, what is going on? It was just, for us, not used to that. It was kind of wild. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been 3 years. We've been going over here to the church we're at now, and there is praising. And in the beginning, that
Yes.
still was a little different, but I enjoy it now. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those times where you put yourself in an uncomfortable space, and sometimes you can grow from it. And I find that interesting because my husband, he was raised Catholic as well. And to this day, his parents still go to a Catholic church. And probably when he had his daughter, they enrolled her into a Christian school, and he started going to a Christian church at that point. And now that's, to this day, we still go to a Christian church and he still has that involved. And the same, his big thing, and he feels more drawn to God when he's listening to the music, which Catholic church, it's no knock on it, but it's very, very traditional. So he was like, I just enjoy and feel more connected with that.
I never understood anything when we went to a Catholic church. I would look, I'm like, oh, everyone's kneeling, kneel now. They would say, Psalms 42. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't understand. Now,
Right.
now I know what I'm still pretty contained. I stand there and I listen, but it just hits you in a whole different way. And my son had left to boot camp in January, and we were there Christmas Eve or last Sunday before he left. And that worship just hit me. I just couldn't stop. And I'm trying to stand there and look composed. And I am just like bawling my eyes out. And my son's next to me. He just kind of rubs my back. But I think it was a combination. But yes, hearing the words and just, it really just hits you in a certain way. And that time it really hit me hard.
Yeah.
Sure.
Were you
For
going to say
sure.
something, Tyler?
Yeah, sorry. We've kind of moved on, but I just kind of want to bring it together because we've alluded to dark cloud over the house. Jason retired, moved out to where you are now, found the church, but that coalescence of time. So transitioning out of the PD into retirement, what was that like for you? That process, because I can tell you for one who's in the process of doing that, it's a big deal. Mo kind of was like, boom, I'm out. I'm taking care of my son. I'm gone. I don't know if it hits you yet or not, Mo, but you were like, "Look, I'm out," dropping the mic. It hits people harder sometimes.
Well, I think
Jason alluded to it did. Yeah. Jason alluded to it was hard for him.
Yeah, it was difficult. That was his life for so long. That was his every day. Even when he was home, it was still, taking space in his mind. So, I totally understand that was a difficult process for him, but he knew he was ready to go. It was 2020, it was during COVID. And that time for us where everything just had to shut down was like a blessing because we had all this time together and we went from having no time together to now having every single day, like seeing each other. And that too, it's like you're throwing my day off, sir. So that was that was a fun transition. We had a routine, we would get up and have our coffee and read and work out and bike ride. So that kind of, for us, helped us really ease into his retirement, or for me at least, and just in being in each other's lives daily like we were. So I feel like for me, that was helpful. I was excited to have him, home and not have to worry about sharing a holiday or, hopefully not his mind anymore with work. So I was very excited. I was excited for the kids to have dad home more often and maybe a little more present. But yeah, I know for Jason, it was tougher. That was his life, right? For so long. But I was certainly happy to have him home.
I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Me too. Asked me a couple years ago. I don't know.
I will say I laughed when you said he was throwing off your routine.
Yeah.
Because we just had a conversation. I left the sheriff's office to raise my son. And then shortly, probably about a year and a half later, my husband retired and he came into my domain. And I was like, sir, I'm going to need you to stand down.
Back up.
Yes.
Go be a lieutenant somewhere else. I got this.
Stop organizing my spices.
But it throws your day off. You already know what your own routine is. And now someone else is in the mix who wants to do something different. So you have to work, acclimate to each other again.
Yes. And
you've been doing it for 20 years or whatever?
We've been together 25 years.
No, I know, but he was working.
20 years. Yes.
So think about that. You had your routine for 20 years. And then it's now all of a sudden it's like, all right, so I'm home. So we need to do this. It's like,
pay attention to me now.
Yeah. The baby that never leaves the house is home now. So what's up? That's so good.
But it was good though. We found our space with each other worked out well. So.
Well, I think it's important to touch on that because I think I know in some of the stuff that I have gotten involved with now that retirement is really super difficult for a lot of law enforcement officers. I didn't have a hard transition. I think it's because I was transitioning into being a mom and I had an infant that was brand new at home. And so I was completely distracted. But a lot of people transition without a plan. They transition with, all right, I'm home now. What do we do? And it's almost like being deployed and coming back home and being reintegrated back into the family. So I think it's so important when you said the word reacclimate, you absolutely, as a couple, as a family, have to get reacclimated and to get that understanding is what is the rhythm of the house now? Because it was very different, as you explained, when he was in this job. And a lot of times that transition from the job to retirement, that person is having their own mental and like they need to have that that time to kind of almost decompress. But then it's the now dealing with now I've decompressed. Nobody calls me. I don't get call outs. I'm not, the quote unquote man anymore. So it's very interesting for you to use that terminology of the acclimation that has to take place. So once you guys retired, and I say you guys retired because that acclimation phase does take place. Now that he's home, and how did parenting and the family dynamics change once that happened?
Jason had to learn the word patience.
Yeah.
Jason's a perfectionist. I am not. If things are a little messy, I will leave it there for a bit, maybe till it bugs me. To this day, I still come into Jason's office and kind of move things around just for fun. But I think he had to learn, it made him good at his job. It made him amazing at his job. But at home, not so much. So he had to learn patience. He had to learn how to have a relationship with his children. Now he saw them a little more full time. So he had to learn how to have a relationship with them. And then we had to learn how to have a relationship. Again, we started our lives together so young, and it was right away children and his work. So there was not a lot of dating time. So now us as the kids are getting older, we both had to learn to date each other again and be around each other again. I joke that a couple years ago asked me, to be around Jason all day, I would go crazy. Or to work with Jason, there was no way I could work with him because for him, things were so black or white. It's this way or that way. So there was a lot of learning in so many different aspects of both of our lives for ourselves and then for each other. And then now incorporating the children into that.
That's an excellent explanation, in my opinion, because
so good.
Patience nails it. I think that, and type A personality works really great for being a cop. But being a husband, being a wife, you have to be able to give. It's one of those things that sometimes that they think, well, I have this great skill. It's afforded me this great career. Why can't I incorporate it at home? And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Veronica, Mo's also married. They're both hostage negotiators, and they will be like, don't use your tricks on me. But also, Mo, I just have to say this. Veronica is just throwing out little nuggets. It's like, we just have to start dating each other again. Yeah. Huge. A lot of people don't do that. We just had to learn patience with each other. Huge. A lot of people don't do that. You just move in this world where you're like, this is just how it is and this is how we got to be. But it takes people years and sometimes they never get it. And unfortunately, that's what causes rifts. But for you to acknowledge it, see it, and still to still be there standing next to Jason with all that going on, that is huge. That's such a big thing. I don't know how to express it enough for you because it's like you're just like, we just had to start dating each other, doing these. That's awesome. And I'm hoping the dates are better than they would have been when you were 18.
They're a little bit better.
You're a little more established now.
No, they're a little bit better now. But I think you don't learn those things unless you go through it, right? We went through a lot of turmoil and arguments and fights. And we went through a lot for us to be at this point now to be able to say what I said with just ease, right? You have to just to jump back to my mom and her being a single mom, you learn certain things. I was never upset about what my mom did or didn't do because we're all just trying our best to go back to that. We're all just trying our best and you learn from your parents. And I would joke, I'm going to screw up my kids somehow. I just hope it's not too bad. I'm just it's my first time being a mom and it's my first time being a wife. And I hope they learn from me. And I think that one of the toughest things that if I did something wrong, I would have to call out myself to my kids and I would talk to them about it. Well, mommy did this and you don't want to do that, right? Well, certainly I don't want to admit whenever I'm wrong, but to talk to your kids like that, because I think that's how you learn. So I learn from our experience together through all the hardships. I learn from my mom and her hardships. That's all we can do is just hopefully learn and try to now implement a new way of existing into our lives, especially for the children, just to make it better for them.
Yeah.
Veronica, that's huge. Sorry, two things. One, I keep telling myself, I'll know my kids are okay when they're about 30. And if they haven't completely gone off the rails, I'll be like, all right, I did okay. And then number two, the way that you're talking about how you would interject that into your kids' lives, I'm still working on that because what I tend to like to do is let stuff pile up for a bunch of years. And then I just take all the shit that I've done, and then I just dump it on the floor and be like, hey, this is how your dad is. This is all the ways that I fucked up until this point. And they're like, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, there you go. It's like I offloaded a mountain of bad stuff. And then I'm like, all right, let's move on from it. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't just do it a little bit at a time. I would build it up and dump it. So I'm trying to get better at that. But I'm glad to hear you say that you would do that throughout their life. But anyway, sorry.
I don't always do that with Jason though. Nope, I was right.
Well, that's different.
Sometimes that happens when you're married. We make those mistakes. I agree.
That's right.
One other thing too that you said that I thought was really important is the relationship formation. A lot of people will look and go, "You're married for 20 years. You don't have to form your relationship. You've had your kids for a while, for life. You don't have to form a relationship." But you absolutely, if there has been turmoil, if there's been, missing in action time frames, you absolutely need to work on forming that relationship to make sure that now that the parts that were maybe that part of the clay that was kind of warped and had kind of started to melt a little bit, you got to kind of start putting your hands back on it again. So that was, like when you said relationship formation, that kind of hit the point that I think a lot of people in this profession miss out on because they like, well, I've been there. You have been, but it's been in a totally different capacity. And it's not to take anything away from the spouse that's doing this, but it is to say that now we have to make a new version of us because now our life from this day forward is going to look different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it was tough too when the kids were younger because, everybody has their own parenting skills. But one thing that I didn't do was put my husband first. It was my kids were first. And, I felt like I have to protect their feelings and emotions and, again, if dad was grumpy or whatever it was. And I'm not saying he's a great parent, always a great
100%.
provider and stuff. But, sometimes you parent out of anger, you parent out of perfection or wanting perfection. Or again, with his job, it made him great. But at home, it wasn't always so great. So I know for me, that was kind of hard for me to have a certain relationship. And that was a problem for us because I would put the kids before my husband. And that has changed also. I think your kids might always come first, but now it's different. Our relationship is different. Like now, if there is an issue or something arises, I kind of just will stay quiet. I let my husband work that out with them because I see him doing it from a whole different place. He's doing it out of a heart of wisdom now, not out of anger. And if there is a time where it is from anger, I see him reflect on that. And so quickly it changes to what it was before, or maybe a week or two's gone by and it's like, okay, now we could talk about it. It's so different now. So it's like you give him that little bit of peace and maybe it's 24 hours later, but he's reflecting, he's processing, he's thinking about that. So just seeing him change as a father has helped me form a better relationship with him. So that is a small aspect too of how we have changed together.
It sounds to me that like
gives hope.
You were maybe when he was parenting from a different place because of his own stresses and things, that part of trusting him as a parent was kind of, now that you guys are kind of at a different place and he's coming from a heart of wisdom, you said, you are trusting him to go through those processes with the kids too. So huge point too. And I think that's important too, as now this isn't just saying, as moms, we sometimes do want to come in and go, that one's mine, and we have to remember, we have to step back and let them father and we mother and know kind of like where our role is so that our kids can be parented by both of us and make the best version of themselves as a result of it.
Yeah. And that's super important. And I understand the role of a father and the importance of that for a child. But when you're parenting out of anger, that's very difficult to now allow that parent to parent, right? So now it's so much easier now. I see the difference in his parenting style, which makes it now easier for me to back off because I know my kids need that insight. Like I know that, but it's just easier to stand by and let the kids get in a little trouble if they need to. That.
Did your faith, you think, lead you down this path along with maybe the trust growing between you and Jason when it came to the parenting part of it? And do you think that the faith really helped you to kind of go, okay?
Oh, yeah. For myself and for Jason, I know for Jason too, he dives in the Bible all the time and he really tries to live that out. And I see the difference with him and the kids. And I know it's because of that. I know it's because of that book. And the same thing for me. I read it And I try not to just read to read. I really try to like focus on when I'm reading. Sometimes I have to go back. I have a study Bible and that is super helpful. But yeah, I would pray all the time for just patience and understanding. And if I see Jason maybe say something I wouldn't say that might be unkind, I will pray on it. Even if it takes the whole day, I will pray for patience with my husband. I will pray for my husband to come to an answer, to be able to fix things or make things better. So yes, I guess long story short, for me, it's made a big difference because now the first thing I do is I will pray, and I will pray to how can I be a better wife to my husband today? How can I be a wife? How can I be the wife that he needs in this situation? Instead of just being angry and be like, excuse me, what the, and it takes a lot.
Yeah.
And there's some
It
days,
does.
there was a recent day and I had to like just pray all day. And by midday, I was starting to, my flesh was getting annoyed, like this mother, and I was upset. And I
Right.
just, continue to pray that when the time comes that we have a discussion about it, I am
Right.
patient, I am understanding, I am thoughtful to the words that he's saying. And it's been really helpful for us. So yes, I
Yeah.
think my faith plays a huge role into our daily lives.
Yeah. That's so, like I said, just such an incredible thing that I think people will miss sometimes. That relationship formation, that building of trust again, and incorporating faith is going to lead you the right way.
Mhm.
Your believing in him is going to lead you the right way. So I'm sorry, Tyler,
Yeah.
I keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. I just to Veronica's surprise, we're over an hour and about 10, and I want to make sure we have space for Living Blue
Yes.
Apparel, Igala, anything else you want to touch on. But I could sit here and listen to this. I love it because once
Yeah.
again, you're both saying it with such ease, but having been someone who lived through it, that not having that to having it, having it now, it's a game changer.
Yes.
It's significantly different in all aspects. So it's almost like you guys are talking to me because I'm like, yep, I've been through that. I did that. I was angry. I did that a lot. Yep, I understand. Like for me, I'm just sitting here going, yeah, I did all those things. So again, it helps. And again, a lot of the reasons that I like this podcast is it's not that no one else has other things they're going through, but a lot of people, they don't talk this way. They don't speak with just honesty and like, yeah, we're great now. We're in a great place. 2 days ago, I was about to curse that motherfucker out. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just calm down for a second. We're coming from a good place. Just to hear that, like that's honest. That's real.
Yeah.
That's how things really work. It's not all, social media relationships where every day you're like on a vacation to Paris. And there's never been an argument between the two of you, which I hate. This is
Just
just
needs to get
honesty.
better. Yeah. It's not going to be
Always.
perfect, though, right? You're going to argue. You're going to annoy each other. I mean, that's just what
You're
it is.
humans.
But yeah.
I love it.
So to transition, so we do have time to cover this. You guys, once he left law enforcement, upon the relationship, like rebuilding of the formation of that relationship or kind of remolding that clay, you guys added a business and a book and lots of other things. Can you touch on, like what was the when you guys started down that path? Why decide to take that on?
Well, I think with Jason's career, he, once he retired, so I'm going to back up. During COVID, he did the John Maxwell School, and I think that was helpful.
Mhm.
And then he became a crisis counselor. So I think for him retiring, that was just a natural progression. He really tapped into the mental health field, and especially going through everything that he went through, just his own personal issues, and then us as a family really drove him in that direction. So the book that obviously is not me. I'm just happy to be able to support him in his world doing that. So that's him. And then Living Blue Apparel, we just kind of thought about it. We thought it would be fun. When we moved, it's scary. You don't know where you're moving to, right? It's like,
Yeah.
are there people like us? Are they going to hate the cops? Like, what is it going to be like? And I looked for certain people wearing certain shirts. I looked for certain bumper stickers on vehicles. I looked if there were, flags out to see the area in which we're in, because that made me feel a little more comfortable that we were like around our people, right?
Okay.
So us with the apparel, that was really important. So other people, maybe if they feel like me, they look around, they see somebody supporting them as someone's close by that's like them, they can relate to. So the apparel, that's just kind of like I don't want to say fun project. It's career, right? But I have fun with it. We enjoy doing the designs and putting it out there. And for me, I just have fun and love supporting him. Yeah, I don't do
I
the
like
business stuff. That's all Jason.
I know you said the book that's Jason. That's not me, but I ordered the book. And so I've been reading it. And one of the things that stuck out to me right away was his dedication. He says, and to my wife, Veronica, who has loved me through good times and in bad times, our relationship is what it is today because of your strength and support for someone who didn't always give the same back. That tells me that you're more this book than you think you are, ma'am, because this is another one of those things that he could not have accomplished without having a partner walking with him, not running a parallel life, not doing her own thing, but being supportive enough to allow him to grow and to bounce these ideas off of you. A lot of people don't feel comfortable even in their relationship to bring an idea as big as I want to write a book to, their spouse's plate, because that translates, well, money and time and all these things. But he knew, again, that he could trust you with his dream. And he knew that you would take it and you would help him. Like they say, you give your spouse, your wife, something, and she's going to turn it into something even better. And so I think that when you say you're not part of the book, you didn't write it maybe, but I definitely think you are more part of it than you give yourself credit.
Well, thank you. I love his passion. I love that he wants to help somebody else that may be going through a difficult time. With our son in the military now, I pray to God he will never go through anything like Jason has gone through. But if, our son can learn, Alex has read the book. So I think of him and how many other kids are out there and people going through similar situations. So for them to know that they're not alone, other people have gone through it, it's going to be super helpful. So there's no way I couldn't support him doing everything that he wants to do through the book, through the apparel, through the podcast, through everything that he's doing. So it's really just an honor to be able to, support him.
I second that. And I hope your son doesn't go through that. My son has decided he wants to listen to everything I'm telling him. And then he wants to do it the hardest way possible, like I already did, which is his path. My daughter, on the other hand, is like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That sounds terrible. I'm going to take what you're telling me and do it this way. I was like, well, there you go.
One out of two.
So I hope that. Yeah.
We had the 3 and 2 of them had to go on their own little rocky road. And then our last one is like your daughter. He's like, well, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. So he learned by watching. He didn't have to go through it on his own. So yeah, that's
smart
the
boy.
youngest.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, like we told you at the beginning, we like to respect your time. So do you have anything to share or any messages that you want to kind of put out there? There was another business too, I'm sorry, that you were mentioning also. Can you give us, I think Tyler had said something about it.
Igala, the training.
Yeah. Oh, so yes, that is another thing that I find super interesting, again, because of our son more so. And, my husband, his job that he went through. I will say, I just love being around horses. I love it, but I love the modality of it. I think it could have been helpful in our marriage. In our marriage, there was never like therapy. We weren't going to talk to somebody that was so foreign for us. But if there is something like this that we knew about, I think it could have been really helpful. Helpful for me. Like my anger, I would just kind of bottle up, right? And that could be self-destructive because like you don't want to share you being upset. For Jason, his anger, it's maybe verbalizing and throwing it out there, and that could be destructive in a relationship. So even little things like that are huge things. Being in that arena with a horse or the horses, I think could have been really helpful. So that's just a brand new journey. I'm just kind of tagging along with Jason on, just happy to be part of and learn more about. So yeah.
Can I say this? Jason is the first person I ever even heard of this equine therapy thing ever. And now we've talked to 4 therapists. They're like, oh yeah, that's huge. That's great. I'm like, what the hell? I've never heard of this in my whole life.
Before. Yeah, that's what Jason said.
It's not out there. People don't talk about it.
No, people don't talk about it. No, but it's a big deal. And I think it could really help a lot of people. So, because we've heard more stories and how helpful it's been for veterans, first responders, children, all across the board. And if we had known about it, that might have been a therapy we would have looked into perhaps. So yeah, that's just been fun to learn more about.
Cool. Well, the biggest project, shameless self-promotion, is the Street Tales Network apparel on Living Blue Apparel, which I'm very excited. I'm very appreciative. Yeah. And I love the way you're saying I do the fun, creative stuff. And I get it because that is fun. It makes me laugh, just very kind of for me, easygoing, but then we get into the business side, it's like, that kind of goes into it. So I think it's funny when you're like, yeah, it's new passion project, hobby. I'm like, yes, all the back end stuff that goes into it is like
Oh yeah, that
stressful.
part's not fun. That's Jason's job right there.
Yeah, exactly.
She's
Everybody
like,
likes to
like
go
any
to the
of that.
show.
Yeah.
No.
Here's a sketch, hon. That's it. Yeah, that's
that's
it.
a part of it, though. That's a huge part of it. It's
It
the
is.
business side if you weren't doing the creative side.
Yeah.
There you go. Although Jason's got some good stuff too. He's been coming out with. He's been
Yeah.
super creative lately.
Look
So
at that.
he's
You're
tapping
rubbing
into
off
that,
on him.
that left
He
brain,
is.
right brain thing. He's starting to expand the other side.
What's
Awesome.
happening is for him, he's got to give up some of his type A in order to take on some of your creativity. So it's all balancing.
Accurate.
Yeah, see?
Very
I love
true. Very true.
Veronica, we did so good.
I think just to learn how to communicate in a healthy way, be kind to each other, be patient with each other, find fellowship, find community, find an honest community, somebody who's going to root for you, not try to tear you down, people who are going to love on you,
Yeah.
and just have grace with each other.
I don't know how to say anything
So
better than
good.
that. Mo?
That is awesome. Thank you, Veronica. I know that when I met you, I just felt your spirit, and I appreciate you doing something that I know that was uncomfortable for you and doing it at a level of excellence. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome.